So it's something of an open secret now that West Ham are going to sell a lot of players, and I mean a significant number of players in the summer. That in itself is not big news, but I think the sheer volume of them is really starting to hit home. I've done videos all week and suggested people like, James Ward-Prowse could be sold, Todibo could be sold, even Max Kilman isn't above being sold. And I only mention those names just because all the other guys, they're all pretty obvious. You all know the names of them. There's a number of players out of contract, there's a number of players on loan, there's a number of players who want to leave, there's a number of players who are going to be sold anyway. And I think with that in mind, it becomes quite apparent that West Ham not only needs an overhaul, but it's going to be unprecedented. Possibly the biggest seasonal change that West Ham have ever seen. That's how big it is. And I can't even remember if I mentioned in a video I wrote in a blog, but certainly over the last couple of days I mentioned that only Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Jarrod, Bowen and some academy players would be safe from the chop, right? So it was really interesting this morning to hear that ex-West Ham United employee had basically said pretty much the same thing, although he'd added Crescencio Somerville to that list of, well, basically list of two. Wan-Bissaka and Bowen became Wan-Bissaka, Bowen and Somerville. The only players who are impervious to that, the only players who won't be sold. It doesn't matter what's offered, we won't sell those players. And, I mean, he certainly heard it from different places than I have, and I think that's the real trouble when you get the same information but from different sources. It's probably highly likely to be true. Now, any one of the players I might have named, and I mean the ones to leave, you might think, well, that's okay. We lose Max Kilman, well, that's okay. Lose Edson Álvarez, that's okay. Lose Lucas Paquetá, that's okay. And you go through all of them. Where it does become a problem is when you're about to lose all of your players. And the reason that's a bit of a problem is if you're going to embark on such a huge overhaul, then you're probably going to need a specialist in place. And we don't have one. And I don't mean this to be in any way insulting to Graham Potter, because I've just listened to his press conference and I think he makes some really, really good points. But the analogy is insulting. I don't mean it to be. I'm only trying to highlight that we don't really have the man to do that job. In many respects, we've just found out that we've got to cater for a banquet, and we've hired a really good waiter, and we should have hired basically a catering chef. We've not done that. Graham Potter has enough on his plate to keep with the culinary theme. Just coaching West Ham at the moment is a full-time job. It is for everybody. It's why all the other clubs do that. Pretty much all the other 19 clubs, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of them all, but pretty much all the other 19 clubs have somebody in place or a team. Most of them have a team in place who deal with recruitment and deal with that stuff. Graham Potter at the moment is making phone calls to try and get player deals over the line. He has got enough. It would be a tough job anyway, just coaching West Ham. But the club have decided, whoever's decided, he's taking on recruitment as well. It couldn't have happened at a worse time. Now, I really hope, and I mean this, well, actually, I don't hope Graham Potter does well. I need for him to do well. We need for him to do well. Because if we don't get this next period of recruitment right, and we are going to lose, even if we lose 2/3 of the players that it's suggested, we're still going to need to bring in 10 to 15 players. That is a tough ask for a director of football, for someone that's experienced in doing this. For someone that's never done it before, this is tough. And I know what you're saying, Carl Macaulay. I've really, really done my digging. I've really done as much research as I can on Carl Macaulay. And he was, for his career, he has been a data analyst. And what I understand that to be is, if we go to the Brighton model, because Brighton are in the news, and we've been lucky enough on Hammers Chat to have a Brighton fan on, and we speak to people, and you always do sort of a bit of cross-pollination with them. And so you've got Paul Barber and Tony Bloom at the figureheads of that club. And what's got a lot of, I think, attention in recent years has been this algorithm, this software company that Brighton have and that the Brighton owner has, which identifies players, identifies up-and-coming players. It's hugely successful. I joked in a preview that maybe we should try and hack them and get that information. It's allowed them to punch above their weight. It's allowed Brighton to really take a club who were playing in an abandoned hockey stadium with no roof in the lower leagues to an established Premier League club who've qualified for Europe. That's how good their recruitment. They've done that pretty much all by being savvy in the recruitment of both the players and in terms of the management. As I understand it, what used to happen was, so Tony Bloom would get these players. So there might be a player in Ecuador, there might be a player in South America, wherever. It would be a good player. And then that player's name has gone through this sort of supercomputer, and to verify whether that is a good prospect or not, that's then given to the data analyst. So it's a case of, was it Caicedo? Was he at Independiente? I might be wrong, but it doesn't matter. We use whatever example you want. So it's a case of, right, we've got this player, he's at Independiente, we think he might be suited to the Premier League. Can you give me a breakdown? Can you crunch the numbers? Can you give me a breakdown of his last 60 games? Something like that. As I understand it, that was Carl Macaulay's job. This is very, very different to going out there, meeting agents, meeting representatives, meeting players, negotiating with clubs, or even just going out and scouting players. It's almost like a completely different job. So what West Ham have done is we have pretty much entrusted the most important period of recruitment in the club's history in two guys that have just not done this stuff before. One guy in Potter has already got his work cut out, really should be doing something else. Macaulay has become head of recruitment. He's been promoted. They're going to have to learn on the job. That's a huge risk. It's particularly a huge risk when you're going up against experts like I've just described in Brighton, and they're far from on their own. They go out and they get people go and poach the director of football or whatever, the head of recruitment from Atletico Madrid or whatever the case may be, from big clubs and even medium-sized Premier League clubs now, poaching good figureheads from established European clubs who have a massive contact book and know how to get these deals done. This is a problem. And in many respects, I don't think the problem is necessarily going to be selling players. I think that'll do, because as I maintained, West Ham have got some good players. I think the problem is going to be buying them. And this is why we're approaching an incredibly pivotal time for West Ham now. A lot of what Potter said in his press conference was absolutely true. And this is important to point out. He kept on referring back in his press conference to the past 18 months. Which I'm really glad he did, because I think it has been bad, and I think you're going to need to, if you're going to appraise accurately, you need to be quite clear about what you're dealing with. This is not just a failure of Lopetegui. This is Moyes' last 6 months, certainly, and the recruitment and the poor recruitment that's happened. But my point is, it's so much. He made the point. He came in because there'd been a deficit before him of minus 30 goal difference. Well, last season, we had shipped 80 goals. Sorry, we'd shipped 73 goals. It was a Premier League record. I don't know what particular period he was assessing to come with to get to the 80 goals conceded. It doesn't matter. Even if he was 5 or 10 goals out, it was still accurate. West Ham, the team were in a mess. We were shipping goals. And he was making the point, I've had to come in. I've got to sort this stuff out. And it might not be pretty, and it might not be yielding points, but the games have been close. We've not been getting thrashed 3 or 4-0 anymore. Now, put aside whether you like what you've seen from Potter, and whether you think Potter has done a good or a bad job, I think it would be fair to say that would be quite a hard thing to turn around, and that is going to require 100% attention. He's not able to give it 100% attention, unfortunately, because he's out there doing all this recruitment stuff. And I think we got a huge issue. Before I go into that huge issue, can I please point in the direction of today's video sponsor, which is Match Bingo. Guys, get your Match Bingo cards in ahead of the game against Brighton, obviously Potter's former club. Match bingo, and the link is in the description below. So you need to sign up using that link, because then you can get the special offers and the discounts. As basically deposit £10 and get 20. Get an extra tenner, get £20 worth of credits for that. Buy 4 cards, get the 5th one for free. But you're probably thinking, what's a card? What the hell is a card? It's a bingo card. But instead of there being numbers on it, there's stuff that happens in a football match. There's 15 events that have got to happen on that. A lot of them are really easy, like a throw-in or a goal kick or something like that. And the first person to get a row of 5 numbers wins a prize. The second person to get a row of 5 numbers wins a prize. There's a prize given out for a full house, a bigger prize. And then there is another prize given for, I think the second, that's bonus. The bonus house, I think they call it, something like that. Anyway, we've had over 200 winners on Hammers Chat. It's only £2 per card. Literally £2 to play on each game. It runs alongside it as you're watching the game. You don't have to start ticking the numbers off like you do in bingo with your big marker pen. None of that. Your phone will do it for you. It sends you a little notification as well. The link's in the description below. Go and check it out. Go and check out the offers. And I genuinely, you've only got to watch any of our build-up shows. There'll always be someone in there saying, oh, I want to match bingo. It happens a lot. Check it out. The link is in the description below. In terms of the players leaving, it's quite interesting, because when you do an individual video about an individual player, there will always be people that say, well, I like this player, or some people, I don't like this player. So earlier on this week, I did the video that, I think it was on Monday, I think possibly Monday, I did the video that Edson Álvarez had been told that he could leave West Ham. His agent had been told, find another club. We since find out afterwards that something's happened before the Southampton game. And there were people on the comments. Some were saying, oh, this is not good. Some were saying, oh, like Álvarez, he should have been in the team. And some were saying, it's no loss. He's crap. Now, the thing is with something like that is, if he is genuinely crap, and I mean genuinely crap, he'll rock up next season at Reading or something like that, right? He'll go to a championship club, something like that will happen. If he's not crap, and you see him turn up in a Champions League team, and you see him in Dortmund's midfield next season or someone like that, then it actually turns out he's not crap, and it's actually our inability to get a tune out of him. And I think we've got a few of those players. I think we've got a few players who are playing badly for the reason over the period that Potter has highlighted. I've mentioned before, I think Todibo is a very, very good player who's underperforming. I think we have a number of excellent players. Kudus, what's more likely? Kudus leaves West Ham and he continues not to score goals, or he leaves West Ham and looks brilliant again? I know which one I think is going to happen. Kudus isn't suddenly turned into a bad player. We've seen this at Manchester United. Players keep leaving Manchester United and thriving. The problem's not Manchester. Well, the problem's not the players. It's Manchester United, and I suspect the problem is West Ham. And this is why it's so important for Potter to sort this stuff out, because I think he's got some good players out. I'm not saying we don't need new players. We do. Clearly we do. To play his style, he probably needs a whole new midfield. I totally get that. And by the way, I probably would sell Álvarez. But to make it clear, I probably would have started Álvarez in the last game against Southampton as well. But I would understand. I think we need more legs. I think we need more dynamism in midfield. But I think it's too easy to say this Mexican international, who, by the way, got man of the match in his last international game, and did he score? I think he scored as well, who played for Ajax, is crap. So Graham Potter can't get a tune out of him. Well, that's Graham Potter's job. And Potter made the point he said it's difficult, he said it's almost impossible to think that a club can struggle for over a year and anyone to come in and do well. I understand his sentiment, but it is difficult, but it's not impossible, because the Wolves manager has just shown that he can, in fact, do that. In fact, the Wolves manager has shown precisely the qualities that Potter was talking about. In many respects, he's got Potter's qualities. I think it was one of the Wolves fans pointed out on a recent video that I did about, well, it wasn't so much about them, but it was about the comparison of new managers and the new manager bounce. I can't remember what the stat was, but it was something like, since that Pereira's come in defensively, Wolves have been, I don't know, like one of the top 5 teams in Europe. They've just won 5 games on the bounce. They're top of the form table. And that very much is a manager who has come in to a struggling club who have struggled for a long period of time now and turned them around. Because that's what you expect a coach to do. Now, some may say, this is the point, he's made them very, very defensively good. And that's the thing about defensive football. If you're going to play defensive football, you can play defensive football, but you need to get results. If you're going to play defensive football and then still not get results, then you've got a problem. And this is why Potter needs his full attention on coaching his team to get a full season. I understand he's going to need players, and this is where I do feel he's been let down by the football club. Possibly. Probably, possibly. Because you would expect the football club to have an infrastructure in place. And that's definitely the football club's point of view. But you can't have it both ways. We are also, when we've reported on this channel and other people have reported, that Potter was quite keen to get rid of Tim Stuyton. But also showed no inclination to get Dan Ashworth, who was the director of at Brighton. So it's hard to... You can't firmly believe that Potter is just a victim, that he hasn't got a director or someone, an experienced man to do his recruitment for him, if you're going to also believe that he was complicit in Tim Stuyton leaving and didn't want Dan Ashworth to arrive. As I understand it, and I'm more than happy to be proven wrong on any of this stuff, I think Potter's pretty much said, no, do you know what, don't worry about it, me and Carl can sort this out. We need him to be right. We desperately need him to be right, because West Ham have got a huge job, an unprecedented job on their hands to recruit for the summer. I've already been talking for 16 minutes. There's not enough time for me to go through all the players individually, but you would find yourself going through them individually saying, yep, okay, so, well, he's leaving, he probably, we could see him being sold, his contract's up, he's on loan. When you start working down the list, you realise it's a problem. And there's nobody, with the exception of Bowen. You might put 10 or 20 quid on Bowen staying. He probably will stay, right? And Wan-Bissaka. So I think they're pretty safe bets. But you wouldn't put any serious money or bet anything. You wouldn't place a stake of an uncomfortable amount of money that you were uncomfortable losing on Jean-Clair Todibo being here next season. You wouldn't do it. On Emerson, on any of the midfielders, on Paquetá, on Kudus, even on Fullkrug. And Potter didn't seem too impressed with Fullkrug. I've not changed my mind on Fullkrug, to be fair. Not that I'm adverse to change my mind. I absolutely no problem people change their mind. I just didn't know. I hadn't learned. I said when he came in, I need to see more. Well, now I've seen more and I like what I see. I understand he's injury prone. I don't think he should be the first striker at the club, the only striker at the club. We do need to buy a striker. But I like the way he plays. I like his style. I like his frank choice of words. And I think at a time when West Ham are struggling for leadership, proper leaders, vocal leaders on the pitch, I think it's really probably wise that we try and keep him. But given his injury record, bearing in mind he's clearly not that happy here, bearing in mind there's been so many rumours that he's going back to Germany, would you bet 500 quid that Nicholas Fullkrug will definitely be here next season? Of course you wouldn't. So it's uncertain, and I do think there's an uncertainty around almost every player at the club. And West Ham are desperate to bring funds in. Desperate to bring them in. There is no doubt about that. We might have a bit of money for one player, but to bring in 10, 15, we're going to have to sell a lot of them. And I mean a lot of them. And some of them are going to have to be hidden gems. We can't just go out there and bid for Samu Agahara Omarodian or Jonathan David or anything like that. These are, you don't even need scouting for those players. Everyone knows about these players. Those hidden gems, those people that Brighton were unearthing. And I think this is what I'm worried about. Some people say, oh, we got Macaulay there. He was the guy that went, and he wasn't. And it's just not me saying it. Even the Brighton, go and listen to the Brighton fan who did an interview with Gio yesterday on the main Hammers Chat channel. Go and listen to it. We're going to need, we've got to get established players. We've got to get untapped players. We've got to get promising players. And we've got to get someone to do negotiation who's going to basic, because we're not the only ones. Everyone has this data now, right? Even if we identify the next best up-and-coming midfielder in Brazil, whatever, Croatia, any country. I don't know if I've used those two examples, but everyone else is going to know about them because everyone bloody knows about everyone now. So then it becomes a race. Who you got to do negotiating? Who's doing negotiating? At the moment, we got Graham Potter phoning up players directly, saying, "Oh, yeah, we're going to be good. I've got this plan to play this style next season, and we're sort of struggling at the moment." Players are going to look at West Ham in the league, but we need to get a little bit realistic with this stuff. We really, really do. We got a big season ahead of us, a big summer ahead of us, and I think the very best signing West Ham could make now would be just somebody. I say David Dean quite a lot. I don't know if he's still around. I don't know if he's completely retired. But somebody who's done the director of football, has been a chief executive, been dealt in recruitment for years and years and years as a figurehead to sit there and help us get some deals over the line.